Bill Ivey is a visiting scholar at Indiana University's Folklore Department. I talked to him about the challenges societies face in saving their cultural heritage, among them finding the right balance between development and preservation.
How do you keep it alive without in some way damaging it in the process? How do you make it big enough to survive without changing its very nature? So the challenge is to find a balance between how you take these traditional practices, a festival, say, without ruining it by bringing 40 busloads of tourists in to suddenly completely distort that experience. And I think it's a challenge for policy leaders and for scholars, for all those who care about this material, this creativity. The Dragon Boat festivals, which have been celebrated first in southeastern China, but more recently around the country, have had the effect of taking a relatively small tradition and bringing it out into the mainstream of culture and expanding its audience without really harming the original.
But China's a unique country in that when you think about the explosive growth that we've witnessed, it would be very easy for new large cities to grow up and some of these things to get squeezed out. Obviously, the government's thinking about this, trying to balance that. Is that one of the conundrums?
It is a challenge because modernity is left to its own devices, pretty hostile to traditional culture and hostile to much of what we think of as intangible cultural heritage. In China, you have the unique situation of having more than 50 identified nationalities, ethnic minorities, and each of those nationalities has its own set of traditions, often has its own unique language, its unique heritage, practices, liquor recipes, a whole range of special customs. And so one of the challenges is to identify those traditions, maintain their integrity, but again, make them part of the modern China experience. And I think it's something that the government continually grapples with, and it's something that scholars worry about because the scholars tend to be on the side of preservation and protection. Government and business often tends to be on the side of make it bigger, let's exploit it, let's expose it. And sometimes those two things are in tension. And I think China every day works to find that balance as the nation modernizes while trying to bring along these important traditional practices.
Young people in rural settings where these traditions they're steeped in these traditions in a sense, leaving that to go to the city for jobs where they think they can make more money and perhaps build their life up. Is there a tension there, and is there a concern that you lose the traditions as a result?
Yes, Mike, there's a real danger that you lose tradition, particularly when you have that kind of break, that discontinuity where young people leave to go to the city. In the U.S., there has been experimentation with support, financial support, for young people to actually study with senior traditional artists. But you're absolutely right. The China situation is so special because the rural to urban migration has been so dramatic and so pronounced. And I think that's put not so much pressure on the existence of intangible cultural heritage, but on its continuation, which is the point you identified.